are organizers of the 2019 Austin Women's Rally, which is an opportunity for the general public to gather in support for women in their fight for equality and equity. Please welcome, I'm not sure if all of them are here, but I know Kim Whitehead is here and maybe Andrea Hughes. Thank you so much for
Thanks for having us.
So how did you both get involved in this year's Women's Rally?
I helped co-found the organization that's hosting the rally in 2013. And it came out of the Wendy Davis filibuster. It started as an effort to kind of continue connecting the community with the organizations doing the work and create an annual event where people could meet up and make connections and grow the community.
Wow, that's crazy.
And I said, let's do it.
Nice.
Yep.
So why do you feel it's important for women to gather every year for this cause? Like, I've been told on the internet that equality has happened. That we're good. The wage gap, what? That's what I've been told. So why is it important?
The battle's ongoing. I'm sure Kim can tell you a little bit about that.
Kim is seething right now.
I'm sure I can see the thoughts just going through her head.
As a mom in Texas, I do not think that equality has happened. I do not think that equity is anywhere close to happening. In my profession, I work as a dental hygienist, and if equality was happening, half of the hygienists I saw would be men. Mm-hmm. Right, but every time I see a male hygienist, I'm like, holy dolly, there's a guy-genist. That's what we call him, right? Mm-hmm. But like, I don't lose my mind every time I see a left shoe and then find a right shoe. You know what I mean? Because that's equal, right? Mm-hmm. And if equality was happening, I would not be pissed that guy-genists get paid more than I do. You know. And get promoted quicker than I do. And I'm not mad at hygienists. I know several of them, and they're wonderful, fabulous hygienists. And when they tell you to floss, you're going to ignore them just as much as anyone else. But yeah, you know, I have a daughter, and I would like her to inherit a world that has the same amount of opportunity, or pump my brakes, more opportunity, instead of the less opportunity that seems to be slowly sneaking up on us. And by slowly, I mean at warp speed right fucking here.
So the Texas Repro Rights Rally is what you started in 2000. Or that's a partner of the rally, right?
The Texas Reproductive Rights Rally is the organization.
Okay.
And it started out of the Wendy Davis filibuster in 2013. And we started hosting annual celebrations of the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision, which ensured medical privacy and if you decide to seek an abortion. And we decided that it was important to bring attention to this historic piece of legislation and the rights to privacy medically that it protects. And it's just an issue that hasn't been really getting a lot of attention. And until we started doing our annual event, there really wasn't any sort of annual gathering of pro-choice activists. And so we felt we kind of filled a niche there. And then this year we decided to broaden the event. Last year we ended up being the co-organizers for the organizers of last year's Women's March with the assistance of the national people. But oh gosh, I lost my train of thought.
This year it's different, right?
Yeah, this
it's
year,
not with the Women's March.
This year we've distanced ourselves from the national movement because of some of the diversity issues that have been raised. We're very concerned about that, and diversity is extremely important to the Texas Reproductive Rights Rally. As the president and as a non-binary and pansexual person, I do feel like I kind of have some experience with marginalization in ways that a lot of other feminists might not. And so we've really tried to broaden the event this year and bring in more points of view, more perspectives, more issues. One of the big issues that we really wanted to be able to focus on this year was the migrant and refugee crisis at the border and the abuse of that population. We also wanted to address issues like the crisis in the foster care system and how, children born in our state, in our country, we're not even able to take care of them, and yet we're taking, children from parents, loving parents at the border for absolutely no valid reason. And so, we just really wanted to build upon that. And next year, we plan to continue on with the Roe v. Wade rallies and then also the women's rally as separate events. So creating more spaces for people to connect and grow as a community.
That's amazing. And when you mentioned the foster care system, fun fact about Texas, didn't last year they passed something that made it difficult or they didn't allow LGBTQ plus couples to adopt. So we've got children who need homes.
Well, at the same time, there's a crisis in the social worker network where there's not enough social workers in general, and there's also not enough foster care. Earlier this year, foster children were literally sleeping on the floor of the offices here in Austin and all around Texas because Texas would not open up foster care to non-binary cisgender couples.
So
specifically with Christian religious overtones.
Yeah. So keep in mind when you're voting in your legislators and they're like, well, we care about the children, we care about education. They don't, if they cared, then, these families would be able to adopt them. So roasting all these, I hate Texas. Anyway, burn it all down. So you mentioned being able to open up the rally to more diverse viewpoints. Can you speak about what's good advice for someone who maybe doesn't know what intersectional feminism is? Because we do have, I would say, like coming out of the first Women's March, we saw a lot of white feminists, people who thought about feminism as a single issue and not as an intersectional issue that race affects. And how do you approach that in your activism?
It's an issue I run into a lot, honestly. I run into a lot of white feminists who just really aren't as aware of the issues of how racism and the patriarchy definitely kind of intersect with sexism and racism. It all kind of works together to ensure that power structure for white men specifically. And I think that it's extremely important to acknowledge that and to work to dismantle those systems so that we can all have a more egalitarian movement. I think that it's very easy for people in more marginalized positions to kind of be swept aside by people with more money, more education, more recognition publicly. And that's something that the Texas Reproductive Rights Rally has been trying to work actively against since the beginning, because we are at our heart all about having survivors tell their stories and creating a space for people who aren't ordinarily heard to be heard. And that kind of comes from the spirit of me feeling like it's kind of unusual for someone like me to end up in a position like I am with the Texas Reproductive Rights Rally. And I feel like if people had been more aware of the fact that I'm queer, I don't know if I would have made it to that position. And Miss Kim here has been extremely supportive. I can see her looking at me. But there have been people that haven't been as welcoming of me because of the fact that I am very different and very loud and bright colored. So
I like to joke that I'm her fiber because I hold shit together and make it move.
Put it on a t-shirt. Kim Whitehead. That's amazing. What specific issues? You mentioned a lot, but what would you say? I know there's got so fucking many, but what are top of mind issues that you think need immediate addressing with state legislation?
Release the hounds. All right. First of all, I would like to see the Texas Maternal Mortality and Morbidity Task Force recommendations released and put into action. Those have been sitting on the shelf for not one, not two, maybe two, possibly 3 years. It's time for them to get put in because this especially affects Latinx women and Black American women, and they are dying at a completely unconscionable, unrealistic, unneeded rate all across Texas, and that is fucking all of blatantly in your faces racism. So I'd like that to happen.
We're number one in the country. Are we number one in the world?
We are number one in the country, and we are, there are third world countries that have better maternal mortality outcome rates than Texas does.
Yeah.
But
Governor Abbott's
talking about
we are
white
killing
women.
our
If we're
minority
talking people
women
of color, it gets
more
even
better
worse.
than every other state in the union.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then, Governor Abbott's we're number one, though. Guys, we're number one. just not at the right things.
I would like to see that. I would like to see a resolution for family issues at the border. There is no reason to separate a child from a custodial parent while they're waiting for their review. Right? If they're both going to be in the country, they might as well all be together and limit emotional issues for both parties. Right?
Yeah, no one's thought about the long-term
Children do not
effects.
need to be weaponized and used as a threat to keep people from coming to this country, no matter what reason they're coming. They might be coming for economics. They might be coming because they have refugee status. I don't care if they're coming because they want to pull a candy cane out of their left fucking nostril. You still do not need to take a child away from them.
Yes.
Right.
And also, I want to meet that family that's doing it. Because that is impressive. I don't have those talents.
Neither do I.
Andrew, what would you say your top of mind?
I think that, my top of the pile would be, bringing an end to domestic violence and, creating a world where children are being given adequate sex education that includes information about consent, scientifically based information about birth control options. If we're not arming our children with the basic facts that they need to control their bodies and to, plan their families, I feel like we're failing them. And, Texas is notorious for our purity-based, abstinence-only sex education. I use that term very loosely.
It's as pure as Texas Hill Country water.
Very loosely, yes.
Just throw some water on it.
It's we're not even teaching kids about healthy relationships. The battle is over before it's even begun.
All of these issues connect to, it's like
It all
foster
connects.
care, immigration, they all connect. It's families.
I was joking earlier today that if you drew a Venn diagram of everything that's jacked up about Texas, in the middle, the common thing would be the man.
Let's kill them all. No, I'm kidding.
Not men.
Let's figure out a
Not
way
men,
to
but
get them
the
to
man.
agree to the things we want. Because
Right.
they're the ones in power, unfortunately. So how would you say you deal with not getting overwhelmed with the shitstorm of issues that Texas has to deal with on a daily basis?
Pitch black sense of humor, honestly.
Yeah.
If I couldn't laugh, I'd cry all
Yeah.
the time. I think that humor can be a vital coping mechanism, especially when you're dealing with topics as dark and as deep and as widespread as some of the things that we're confronting. And, like you said, they are very intimately connected. If you look at any of these feminist issues that are affecting women in general, and then you add the layer of, racism, everything gets worse. The wage gap gets worse. Maternal mortality gets worse. Outcomes with domestic violence get worse. It's
Access to health care.
access to health care. It's access to education. It's access to public services. Access to good jobs. I think that a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that there's easy solutions to escaping a situation like domestic violence, like just go to a shelter, they'll help you there. But there's so much more to that. So much more. And I speak from experience as a survivor. And I think that, just building awareness of these issues and how they overlap ultimately is the best thing that we can do. Education is very much at the core of Texas Reproductive Rights Rally's mission.
And you also have to recognize that you are not going to fix shit. You know what I mean? You by yourself, you're not going to get up tomorrow and fix
One event
anything.
is
You know
not
what I
gonna
mean?
Oh, I thought I
One
could
election.
just solve racism by learning the dance from Save the Last Dance.
Oh,
I thought
no.
it was easy as that.
You got to get your floss on.
I was going to try to make a joke about that. I
but the
woke
point-
up and my IMDb page was open to Save the Last Dance, and I'm like, that's not a good joke.
No.
You can't solve racism through dance. Sorry.
No, but the point is, I recognize that I, as an individual, will not push any burden uphill and have it go downhill and coast, right? But by the same token, I also recognize that one drop of water won't do shit to a stone, but a million drops of water over time will bore a hole through a stone, right?
Especially that
That's
hill
how the
country
Grand
water.
Canyon-
You gotta stop
And that's why the
Grand
Grand Canyon is a tourist spot,
Nice.
right?
Yeah.
One last question. How can the audience support you and the causes that you're fighting for?
Well, the easy answer is give us your money. And, and the real answer is go out and have a conversation with somebody who makes you uncomfortable. Do not have a circular conversation with the people that think like you and dress like you and shop where you shop and like the things you like and tell you about how you are awesome. Go off and find somebody who makes you nervous about yourself and how you're going to present to them, and then engage that person with all of the awkward fucking honesty that you can bring to that conversation and see if it makes you grow. And if you go home and you don't feel comfortable, check yourself out spiritually and see what you need to handle with yourself so that the next time you go out and have that conversation, you have more and more to bring to the table. That's my opinion.
That's for you.
That's a constant learning process.
That also sounds like me dating in my early 20s.
And
Constantly
bring a
uncomfortable.
sweater.
And what would you say, Andrea?
Oh gosh, what was the question again?
How can the audience support you and your cause?
Okay, thank you. Obviously, like I said, donating is great, but more so just show up. Whatever you feel comfortable doing, wherever you feel comfortable doing it, whatever cause you feel comfortable supporting in whatever way, just show up and do something. I try to remind people that, pop heroes like Wendy Davis, they're just people. I hugged her. She's just a very frail, petite lady, and she's a human like us.
Whereas I think she's a medium-sized lady.
We all have our biases. I'm working on that one.
That just means perspective is everything.
That's true. That's true. We all have to adjust our perspective and examine it constantly and learn from it. So.
Amazing.
But, just show up, do something. There's tremendous power in just showing up. I think that's the biggest thing we learned from the Citizens Filibuster is that, if you put out the call, there's a chance, 3,000 people might just happen to decide, hey, let's show up. This person's idea is a good one. And, it can make a big difference. I don't know how aware y'all are of the history there, but I think that even though we didn't manage to stop the legislation, I think that we made a huge ripple in the activism scene just by showing up and just by making our voices heard. So don't forget, there's power in just occupying that space.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show. As you know, as is tradition, every episode I gift the strong female leader something from Dollar Tree, not a sponsor. But they had these really problematic wine glasses, and I gotta read the captions. So this one says, "This wine tastes like I'm not going to work tomorrow." Okay, I'm a little worried. And so you guys can trade. And then this one says, I think this one's every hour is happy hour. I'm really worried about that. So I'm concerned for that Dollar Tree copywriter. But thank you so much, Kim and Andrea, the Awesome Women's Rally.
Just in case we haven't plugged it properly, the rally is this coming Saturday, the 19th, between 2 and 5 on the south steps of the Capitol. Please come and join us.
Yes.
Thank you.